Hi, I'm Amanda Jane, and welcome to the Communicate with Confidence podcast. My aim is to take the fear out of communicating and make it easy and fun. On this podcast, I'm going to be talking about everything to do with good communication, how we can connect with our audience, get better at speaking and giving presentations, increase visibility, and ultimately get more sales. I'll also be talking to some incredible people about their business, and I'll be getting their insights on how they view communication and how comfortable they are showing up in person and on social media. So let's get started. Hello everyone, and welcome to the Communicate with Confidence podcast. I'm your host Amanda Jane, and today I have with me Sarah from Sarah Knight Consultancy. Hi Sarah.
Hello. Lovely to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining me. And before we get stuck in, have you had a chance to think about your favorite motivational song?
I have, and my word, that was a tricky one.
Everyone
So,
struggles on that one.
yes, well, there's so many, and there's so many ones that I was like, oh, shall I have that one or shall I have that one? But I've gone for a song called Let's Go Surfing by the Drums because it's all about going surfing and getting up and it being a beautiful morning. And it's something that me and the kids used to listen to quite a lot as well. So I love it.
Oh, that sounds good. I don't know that song, but I will add it to the list, which will be going on my website any day now. That sounds absolutely fantastic. Anything that gets you up on your feet is good for me.
Absolutely.
And what about a favorite motivational quote?
Okay, well, I have got a couple actually, and they're not from anyone famous. So I have been probably the unluckiest friend in the world in the fact that two of my best friends have gone to sit on their clouds.
Oh,
And they're both amazing, inspirational people and friends. And the first selfish friend that went to sit on her cloud nearly 10 years ago now, and she lost her fight with cancer. And one of the things that we talked about, I helped organise her funeral. And one of the things that she talked about in her last months and within her eulogy that I wrote and gave for her was look up. And that is something that's stuck with me throughout, well, forever really, is, she used to say, if you look down at the pavement and you look at your feet, you'll only see the cracks. But if you look up and you look at the sky, you'll see all the opportunities. So
oh,
that's the first one. And then the second one was I lost one of my favourite muckers in the entire world 2 years ago. And she was one of the world's most inspiring, amazing women. She had an autoimmune condition and she never, it didn't stop her. And she sent me a text when she'd been ill for 20 years. And one of the texts she sent me was saying something along the lines of, I've just realised that I've been ill on and off for the past 20 years. And she said, and one thing I could look at is, oh shit, I've been ill on and off for the past 20 years. Or the other way I could look at it is, look at me, I've survived and I've achieved all this for the last 20 years. And her favourite phrase, and the favourite phrase we used to say to each other a lot, especially when things were a little bit dicey, was, come on, let's crack on. And so I also had the privilege and the pain of writing her eulogy, and I wrote the 7 lessons of life according to Fee. And lesson number 6 was just fecking crack the feck on. So
oh, wow. Oh my goodness, they are incredible stories. Oh, wow. And I just love that those words mean so much to you from people who you clearly
yeah,
adored. And oh, what, and it must have been so incredibly hard planning the eulogy and doing all that. But those words, I mean, for me, I would have had them tattooed. I would have had them somewhere because they're just so precious. And that is amazing. It's bringing tears to my eyes. But thank you for sharing that. That is incredible. And it's oh, isn't it a gift that you meet these people that when you in your moment of, because we all do it, we all sort of dip a little bit, and then you hear your friend's words and you're just like, right, get on with it, like
that's
let's
exactly it.
crack on. Yeah,
You
yeah,
know, we all, every year, it's a reminder to look up. And then one of the things I say, and I have said for a long time, is come on, let's just crack on. Let's crack on. It's
yeah,
fine. We'll crack
yeah.
on. And
Oh,
it's just put one step in front of the other and
yeah.
crack on. Let's do it.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you. I love that. And a book, and it doesn't have to be motivational. Do you read?
I do. I am a massive fan of reading. I escape into books, and I actually have a Facebook group which is called the Virtual Book Club, and it's not about
Oh, can I join?
you can absolutely, because it's not about sitting there and discussing the books. It's literally recommendations. So I started it gosh, years and years ago now, when, when you're going on holiday in the summer and you can't think about what to read and what you want to read and everything. And I started it to go, right, okay, everyone put here what books they've read and what they liked about them. And then when you're going to the airport, you need to just go onto it and go and find your book or download your book. And it's been brilliant because that's exactly what people do. So they download the books and recommend the books, and they've always like somewhere to go and what to read.
What's it called again?
And it's called the Virtual Book Club.
The Virtual Book Club.
It's just a Facebook group, and it's open, and it's just for anybody that wants to come on. The only rules are that you have to recommend. It's about paying it forward. So you go on there to see the books, but then when you've read a book, it's like, this is why I loved it. This is what it's about. If this floats your boat, then go and read it. So, and one of my favorite, well, it's actually 7, but the books that I've read in recent years is 7 books called The Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley.
Oh,
and
I love her.
Oh, she's brilliant, isn't she?
Yes.
So, have you read them?
I think I've started them. There's a series of them, isn't there?
Yeah.
I've read a lot of hers. Oh wow.
Yeah.
And I get so evangelical about stuff, but yeah, carry on, sorry.
Yeah, no, she's just brilliant. And her Seven Sisters, whatever 7 would be, I won't say trilogy, but obviously that's 3. But her Seven Sisters books tell you the story of the 7 sisters. And then I don't know why I keep talking about death today, but that it's not for many. But she died just before she wrote the last one. But her son then continued it and wrote the last one and brought it out, and it is fabulous. But there's it's mixture of, there's some real historical context in there. The sisters go and find themselves, and they go back in tracing their lineage and all that sort of stuff. It's just brilliant. They're brilliant. So they're definitely really good books. I would highly recommend them.
Oh, that is amazing. And did she write The Light Behind the Window?
Not sure. Maybe that rings a bell, actually.
And I love that you said that by going on holiday and it's spent too long on books, but I remember the holiday from the title of the book. And I can remember if I'm sat by the pool, and I can remember the feeling, and I really do tie the book to the holiday, and it's such part of my enjoyment of going on holiday. But I absolutely join your book club. Thank you so much for that, and it's just great that we can so many of us on this podcast really enjoy reading. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. More the merrier, because the more books are on there, the more we've all got to read.
Oh, that is so fantastic, and you just cannot get through it. My own reading list is huge, but I love it when you're really into a good book and someone says, oh, you've got to read this, and I do. I just take it so literally. So we will move on to your leadership journey, as much as I could talk about books all night. So can you share your leadership journey and some key milestones that have shaped your career?
Yes, I can indeed. So I am 25 years in business now, I think, and where I am today is I'm a workplace leadership and culture consultant, and I'm a performance and mindset coach. So I work with organizations and individuals and really talk about mindset. Where I started was PR, marketing and communication, and worked for some big agencies in Manchester, and worked on some amazing campaigns, ranging from really serious campaigns about behaviour and working with the NHS, right the way through to that old that I was part of the campaign of Lambrini Girls Just Want to Have Fun.
Really? I remember that.
Yes, and then had to go, and then was part of the group that then had to go to the health committee in the Commons to justify why you could sell Lambrini for £1.99. Well, so high points and low points. But one of the key milestones absolutely was when I was 6 months pregnant with my now 22-year-old, and I was working as an affinity marketing manager in Manchester for a massive telecoms company that floated on the stock exchange and then went bump when the market crashed as well. So I found myself with a team of 50 people, with a bump that turned out not to be vanilla slices, and making myself redundant, writing the press releases, writing the statements, and then thinking, what the bloody hell am I going to do now? And so I went round to all my old contacts in PR and marketing and said, "Gives a job," and they went, "Yeah, come back when your bump's gone." Back in the days of PC language. And so I sat there, and I had a mortgage, and I was the breadwinner, And I thought, right, what do I do now? So I set up a business, and that was the first time. And the business has morphed through various names. It was called Elements Marketing when I first started. So I brought in lots of different marketing elements, and I worked right the way through from having Izzy, who kindly came 4 weeks early. So I didn't get to any of those antenatal classes or actually think about having children. Obviously, didn't have any maternity coverage. And then when I was 6 weeks post having the little scrawling bundle of fury, I was running an event where my mum was sat in the car with Izzy, 4 weeks, 6 weeks old, and I was running the event. And then I'd come out with my boobs full, whack her on the boob, and then run back into the bum. I wouldn't say it was an ideal way to A, set up a business, or B, have children. But
Oh,
having said that, what it's done is 4 years later, the little pot of joy that is Freddie came along, and having my own business has also allowed me the flexibility. I've been that person that's put the kids to bed and worked till 11 o'clock at night, but I've also been able to make the parents' evening and make the sports day and all that. And I have a great network. I was talking to a friend yesterday, and we were saying the power of a network. I was a single mum for a long time as well. And actually that network, that community, those people around you has allowed me to build my business and run my business. And then the second milestone, I guess, would really be when my daughter was 15 and she was doing her GCSEs. I naively and somewhat stupidly thought it would be a really good idea to study something at the same time as her, because we could be girls together studying for and you're laughing, Amanda, because I know how old your kids are, and you'll have been in that same situation where you stupidly think that you can work with your kids. And I decided to train to be an NLP practitioner because I've always been really interested in behavioral science and how we're programmed. Anyway, I did more work for my NLP exams than she did for her 9 GCSEs. But as a result, what it did was it absolutely step changed the business into communication, into workplace leadership, into performance coaching. So that was really the second milestone. And as a result, I've focused on learning development, training, and that side of things. So they're the two key ones, I guess.
wow. So it was as hard as it could have been to start off with. And you're not the first mom on this podcast to describe having a newborn and having to do what you did. And it sounds horrendous. But out of that, I think there's a kind of steely determination to make it work, and benefits that you described, the network, the flexibility, the not missing the sports day, the not missing the nativity and all of that. That is absolute gold. And to have created what you've created over that period of time is absolutely fantastic. And I was laughing when you said you were studying, because I did exactly the same. I went back and studied something, my coaching qualification, and I always seem to have to study something on the go as well. I don't know what it is, but yeah, I understand where you come from. But it also adds that other spoke to your wheel, doesn't it? Another thing. But I can see from your point of view what, that facet that is added to your business. So all of that you've done, and that incredible journey that you've had, which sounds absolutely fascinating. I'm amazed that we've even managed to bring Lamborghini into this conversation, and I'm disgusted with myself that I even remember. But
well, I used to work for Key 103 back in the day, and which is a radio station, and was also part of the team that for Valentine's Day we did the first divorce on air. Yeah. Anyway, I'm quite glad I'm in coaching and training now, because yeah.
oh, there's just some things you cannot shake off, is there?
No.
But within that time period, did you have any inspirations or role models to help lay out a path in front of you, or that you someone that you looked up to? And you've mentioned your friends before too, but anyone else, or were they your inspiration?
Yeah, do you know, I think one of the things that I always encourage women to do as well is to give themselves credit for what they've done. And I think that one of the first things I would say is that I cracked on, and I was determined that, when my marriage fell apart and when various things happened, that I was going to still keep going, and I was going to make it successful, and I was going to do it, and that steely inner determination is something that it's taken me a while to go, oh, actually, yeah, I did that. So there is that I've in later years in midlife, I've gone, do you know what? we need to acknowledge the roles that we play in our own lives and we're our own successes, because it's up to us at the end of the day. But on the back of that as well, I think it's having a brilliant network of championing cheerleaders, so I've got a couple of brilliant friends who will kick me up the arse when I'm being a little bit of a whinge bag, but equally will, sort of say, come on, you can do this, you've got this, and let's do it. And then on the other side of it, I'm a bit like you in the fact that I love learning and I inhale stuff by people, and I love Brené Brown. I think
Oh
she's
yeah.
I love Mel Robbins. And then there's also a performance coach that I've been lucky enough to work with recently called Jamel Qureshi, and he's just effortless in his presentation and his speeches. And, he talks about the need to think differently, to do differently, to behave differently. And that for me has been quite an inspiration. And a lot of the stuff that I bring in work-wise now is all centered around that. So yeah, a mixture of real people on the ground who, and my mum is amazing. She's nearly 80 and she still rocks up at my house and cooks tea for two kids that aren't really here anymore.
Oh,
And she is my biggest cheerleader.
oh.
She leaves me little notes and tells me, and with the other week I qualified as a epigenetics practitioner, and I got my congratulations card in the post off my mum and things like that. So yeah, I'm my dad, but yeah.
Oh, oh, she sounds incredible. She's absolutely amazing. But I love what you said about the cheerleader and you having that network of people supporting you, because it can be very lonely when you're running your own business, and sometimes you find yourself with a dilemma or a problem, and you know that no one around you can fathom what the dilemma is or the decision that you have to make. And it's just an absolute gift if you know that there's a pod of people that you can go and say, well, I've got this issue, and they know immediately without you having to explain. And the value of that is absolutely priceless. And I think, as you know, if you're not, you absolutely need to tap into that resource, whatever that looks like, online. And there's a wealth of cheerleaders out there that people can kind of tap into. And I love that your mom's your biggest cheerleader as well. But having those guiding lights before you to kind of cheer you on and keep you going, it really does pick you up whenever things get tough, because it does get tough. And you strike me as very disciplined. You can pick yourself up and move on, but you still need the cheerleaders behind you to keep you going, because we're all human, and it can sometimes be even more tough when you're in your own business than if you're out in corporate can be tough, but it's very isolating when you're running your own business. So you mentioned your previous career, PR, marketing, and all of that. So my next question will be really interesting. So how comfortable are you with your audience, and are you happy speaking in public and being visible on social media?
Yes. Do you know, this is a really interesting question, because one of the things that I talk about with my clients a lot is how we own our own voice and how we own our voice in the room. And I think one of the things that, when I've worked with organizations in the past and you go in and you talk about being comfortable with your audience, the idea is, and certainly when I was growing up in business, the idea was you almost had to conform to a stereotype to be that person to therefore crack it. And I would say I'm 51 now, and it was only in my 40s when I actually realised that actually it's up to me to own my own voice. And for quite a few years in PR, someone said to me, oh, you're a round peg in a square hole. And that really stuck with me. And that made me feel a little bit crap and a little bit, oh, actually, am I not right? And do I need to be more like that? And what midlife has given me is given me the permission to be me and actually be who I am and tell my story and go out there and be unapologetic about it. And that's something that's happened to me hugely in my midlife. There's all sorts of challenges that go on in midlife, but equally the benefit of going out there and being comfortable and telling your story and saying, this is who I am and this is what I stand for, and actually let's talk about it and let's share it, is something that I'm quite passionate about.
Mm-hmm. It is, and isn't that the gift we would love to give ourselves 20 or 30 years ago, and having that confidence? And you're absolutely right. And that round peg square hole, I've definitely thought about that myself as well. And yesterday, for example, I was at an event, and there was a beautiful girl giving this speaking to a room full of people, And she got up and she stood up and she said, I'm really terrified. I've got to talk now. I'm really, really terrified. And then she went on to deliver this beautiful presentation, very articulate, projected her voice, really, really great. And I just sat there and I thought, why have you told yourself before you spoke that you're not good at it? You've told your audience you're terrified. So I watched her and I watched her, critiquing her, because that's what I do. I help people to kind of get over that bridge. And she didn't stumble once. She spoke beautifully. And when she sat down and she was shaking and all her friends were comforting her. And I went up to her and I said, why did you do that? I said, you were absolutely brilliant. You were flawless. I help people do this, but you are natural. And she just looked at me absolutely stunned. And I thought, isn't that the space where we need to get people to
Yes.
be
Yeah.
at that stage, comfortable with owning their own message, owning their own voice, taking up space and feeling comfortable completely in that space? Because
Yeah.
what's the worst that's going to happen?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, isn't it? And especially, in work, it's like, what's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to fluff your lines, oh my word, how many presentations have I been in, or speeches, keynotes that I've been doing where I've completely forgotten what I was going to say because brain fog, and actually I think you then get to the stage where you go, well, this is all right, I'm giving myself permission to be that. But I love what you said. Yeah, we absolutely need to be somehow trying to embed that lesson a lot earlier on, because I think that certainly as women as well, it's something that's not there, and I think also that need to apologize, if I could stop that sentence, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be very good at this, or I'm sorry, I'm probably going to fluff my lines.
Mm-hmm.
If we could stop that sentence in people, in individuals when they're coming out, and stop them apologizing in communication, it would just be so powerful.
It really would, and just sort of getting on with it and doing it. And the thing that always amazes me, people are always worried that they're going to be judged negatively. And I say this to everyone, what if they're judging you positively? What if they're looking at you going, she really knows her stuff.
Yeah.
She's really good. And
Yeah.
people never see that side of the
Yeah.
coin. And,
Yeah.
and I think of myself when I'm the audience and I'm sat, watching it, and I'm never looking going, oh, she can't do that. I'm never doing that. I'm going, oh, I didn't know that. Isn't she good? And people never think the opposite,
Yeah.
that the audience is actually thinking, wow, she's really brave.
Yeah.
She's really good. And I noticed it when my children were younger in primary school. They went to a really small primary school. And because it was so small, each child got the opportunity to speak or do something when they did the school plays. So there was that shyness wasn't there. And it kind of stuck with my girls. And I loved that because it wasn't a thing. It wasn't a thing.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got to speak. And that stayed with them. And then I thought with social media as well, if you watch young people, many of them are confident to get the phone and do the Snapchat and do the thing. And they're very, very confident at that bit. But I've noticed it's when they're doing the interview, when they're doing the presentation, when they're having to do something at work, that doesn't translate. And it's maybe because there's no filter, or
Yeah.
they can't enhance whatever it is, because the presentation or the interview is really, really them. But no, just very interesting
Yeah.
observation from you. So, what legacy do you hope to leave as a leader, and how do you measure the impact of your leadership?
Well, I guess it depends on your interpretation of what a leader is, first of all. When you're talking about legacy, ultimately, I want to show my kids, who are now 18 and 22, that if they want something, then they've simply got to work for it. They've got to want something, they've got to believe in themselves, which goes back to everything we've been talking about. And if they work for it, it's theirs for the making, and that's part of the legacy that I want to leave as a human. That impact is, if you want something, crack on, make it happen, but you make it happen. Don't rely on anyone else to make it happen for you. I think as a leader, one of the things that I am incredibly passionate about is back to this. It's a similar vein to what we were talking about owning your own voice, but for me, it's being human in the workplace. And whether that workplace is a business that you run on your own, or whether it's a corporate, or whether it's a family run business or an SME, actually getting people to being human in the workplace is so powerful. And understanding that the power skills, I hate it when people call them soft skills, the power skills are the skills that actually will enable you to succeed, and they will have a massive ripple effect from your professional life to your personal life, from your personal life to your professional life. So as an impact as a leader, what I would really love to do is to see more and more individuals and businesses seeing the power of working on themselves, on self-awareness, self-leadership, on mindset, on how they flex their understanding to treat others how they want to be treated. And that is what I would be really passionate about trying to achieve and
Yeah.
achieve.
Yeah, that's so important. And that, that inner work, self-awareness, mindset, all of those things. You're very lucky if you work for a good company that invests in those things and that values those things, but it's not always the case.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and some companies it doesn't figure, but some companies it really, really does. And just speaking from my own experience, I've been very lucky, and I've managed to study other things, and I've managed to get involved in other things. And as a, as an adult learner as well, I've been really, really lucky. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Those key skills are, they take you everywhere, as you say, from
Yeah,
your work life to
yeah,
your home life. And it's something I'm particularly passionate about as well. And even the work that I do, I know, working with any individual, whatever the problem is that they're having with their communication, I know before I even do any work that it's something buried so deep behind even the mindset. So I know I can dig a little bit deeper, find what the friction is, find the pressure point. And usually it's something that the person isn't consciously aware of. And usually it's the mindset, and it's a little bit
yeah,
behind that. But it's just so interesting because it's usually buried somewhere within that. And that person will make this discovery simply because they've taken time to go and see a coach, or they've worked with someone, or they've come into that arena, but doesn't seem to come up in everyday life. And
yeah,
I just feel really lucky that I've been one of those people that's had the opportunity to study it and understand its impact, and I can pass it on to my daughters. And I don't teaching them, but it comes up in my vocabulary, and we talk
yeah,
about it. And you talked about your legacy, and your children have seen how hard you worked, and you've worked for yourself, and obviously nothing's been handed to you because you've spent 25 years working on your own business. And they've seen a pretty incredible woman that's worked for everything. And there's no doubt in my mind that they'll be very clear that they, whatever they need, they'll work for themselves, because they've seen a really good example, and inspiration in you.
oh, thank you. Yeah, I do. I think it's just that thing, isn't it, of going out and doing it for yourself, doing it for yourself, because actually, if you do it for yourself, that sense of achievement's massive.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? There's nothing like it. If you've created this business from the ground up, as those were your words, it's yours. You put your own stamp on it, everything, and it's completely yours, and no one else can take it away from you or even claim any ownership to it. So tell me a little bit more about your business. Where can we find out more about you online, and what it is you do?
Okie dokie. So you can find me online with sarahknightconsultancy.co.uk.
I'll put them in the show notes, by the way, for the
Pardon?
podcast. I'll put all your links in the show notes for
Oh,
the
fabulous.
podcast.
Thank
Mhm.
you. And then that's where you can find out about my training, learning, development, my facilitation. And that's, how I work with organizations, from building leadership programs right the way through to individual coaching. And then I also run something called the Ministry of Midlife, because I'm incredibly passionate about women in midlife having a voice, finding their voice and claiming their space, because it is a life stage where we often lose our purpose a little bit. We lose our way, and we want to redefine and reignite who we are and what we stand for and what our truth is. And the Ministry of Midlife is all about bringing the community together, bringing people together to talk about it, and providing support. One of the things I do is something called Coach in Your Pocket, which is an on-the-go instant access coaching program for midlife women. And I do something called the Wisdom Chronicles, which is live on a Friday, which is all about us women in midlife sharing our wisdom, because let's face it, we've got bloody loads of wisdom that we should be sharing with the world.
I love that. Wisdom Chronicles. And where do you do that?
That's on Instagram. So that's
Instagram.
on the Ministry of Midlife Instagram page.
Wonderful. That sounds absolutely amazing. I will tune into that. Well, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure. I've enjoyed every second. As usual, I can get lost in the conversation, but thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thanks, Amanda. It's been really lovely. I've had such a great time. I think we could probably talk until the dawn starts.
Well, we will have to do another one.
We will.
Thank you. Thank you for spending time with me today, and special thanks to my lovely guest, Sarah Knight. Don't miss your free guide, 10 strategies to boost your communication skills. You can find the link in the podcast description, as well as the links that Sarah mentioned in the podcast. Join me on the next episode for more tips, tricks and insights. You can follow me on Instagram at Coach Amanda Jane, or visit my website amandajane.co.uk. Bye for now.